we have your beginning panel with the Honorable Chris Gallen and Wes Henderson. And you know the reason why I'm on? You know we're going to talk some wrestling here with the Range WrestleTalk. And we're going to recap the WWE draft. We're talking about, what happened live on Raw and the supplemental draft too. So first off, we're going to start on Raw. We had the Hart Dynasty who went with the supplemental draft. Actually, just get the supplemental draft out real quick.
Right.
The Hart Dynasty, Goldust, Ezekiel, the Great Khali. And on live on Raw, you saw Chris Jericho, Edge, John Morrison, and R-Truth go. So which of these people do you think bring the most impact on Raw?
More than likely, I'm going to have to give it to Edge, especially the way he ended Raw. To me, he will have the biggest impact. And Jericho, I really want to know how they will use Jericho. I really want to see how that's going to happen.
I definitely agree with Chris. I think Edge has definitely made an impact at the start of the show, either as the way of going for a fourth possible #1 contender maybe in the mix, maybe even starting a rivalry with Randy Orton, which I would love to see. They do have some history, but I just don't know how they're going to boil it to make a big feud out of it. Randy Orton being a current face at the moment, and Edge having this kind of like a heel turn, kind of just spearing Randy Orton before he had his opportunity to win the #1 contender to face John Cena. So I definitely see that Edge will make a big impact to start things off.
And right now we're going to talk about SmackDown here with their draft picks. Starting with the supplemental picks, we had Chavo Guerrero, Chris Masters, Cody Rhodes, Hornswoggle, MVP, Rosa Mendez. And with their live picks, they had The Big Show, Christian, Kelly Kelly, Kofi Kingston. And they signed 2 free agents, so to speak, in Tyler Rex and Vance Archer. So who do you think on the SmackDown roster with these free agents will make an impact?
I don't know. Vince McMahon really didn't do too much for SmackDown. I really can't even tell you who will make a big impact. I would say if MVP goes heel, he might make somewhat of an impact. Kofi Kingston might make a little impact in the mid-card. Big Show might be catapulted to that main event status to put over a heel, so to speak, because I believe he's going to turn face. SmackDown, Vince McMahon really didn't give SmackDown too much to work with on this draft.
I definitely agree there. I think that they got the low end of the deal from this whole draft, but I think I see Christian becoming kind of a put into the spotlight, but doesn't really need to be there kind of way, because I think that it's going to set up for a kind of a warm up for Jack Swagger, and then as eventually to face him in different pay-per-views maybe, and then also to set up possibly a final run for either the Undertaker, who can maybe coming back pretty soon, and then also the Big Show as well. So I think that Christian will go into the spotlight first, then followed, but he will not make much of an impact as well. So I mean, you can go through any of these others, like these mid cards, like Kofi or MVP or Chris Masters even. They may have some kind of impact, but not as much that would prevent them to main event status.
Well, you gotta realize now, when you talk about star power, this WWE draft has pretty much loaded the Raw roster with pretty much exactly that. You already have, John Cena, Randy Orton, and now you can actually put Sheamus on that level. Now, after the match that we saw last night in the main event, Sheamus is up there. And now you put Chris Jericho, Edge, and John Morrison, and we got to put John Morrison in the conversation now as superstars. There's people want to watch. The Raw roster is loaded, and it seems that SmackDown right now, is lacking.
It is lacking. As far as SmackDown, as far as faces, you got Undertaker, Rey Mysterio, and then next would be Christian. And then, as far as heels, you got CM Punk leading the way, Jack next Swagger. And, I mean, third, you probably would have to go with McIntyre.
Yeah.
More than likely, you have to go with McIntyre. I don't know where the Big Show's going to fall at. I mean, he can be face, he can be heel. I mean, the crowd cheers for him no matter what. I mean, whether he's a heel or a face.
Just like Kane.
Yeah, just like Kane. So, I mean, as far as that, I mean, Kane is still on SmackDown, but he's nothing but just a person to put over the heel for just on a week-to-week basis. Big Show, he might do that, he might not. Kofi, I just don't see Kofi doing too much but being in the mid-card. MVP, he has to turn heel. That face, the face is gone from him, you know, so I don't know. Really right now I see Kofi just taking the place of where R-Truth was on SmackDown, so I don't see how SmackDown's going to do too much. Maybe they finna develop the hell out of some people on them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And you know, at the same time, looking at the Raw roster now, I don't know how they're going to develop a lot of these guys, because you got two guys that are on the Raw roster right now after this trade that are still on injured list. You have Ezekiel Jackson and the Great Khali, both former champions of the three main Raw. You have ECW champion, World Heavyweight champion, you know, and I know they want another chance at this, I mean, especially Ezekiel, because he only had it for like a few days. You know,
well, 1 day, actually, 1 minute.
Yeah, so I mean, I see potential in Ezekiel when he comes back off of his injury. So how in the world are they going to throw him into the mix with all these top superstars on Raw? You know, that just blows my mind.
Well, you gotta realize on Raw, you know, if you were to go from ECW to Raw, you're automatically, you know, heading towards, you know, bottom mid-card status.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just what ECW was. You know, it was the C belt. It was the C belt. But here's the question right now, or what I'm trying to point out. Christian, this has to be the biggest opportunity for him to rise up and take, you know, control in the main event on SmackDown. You know, he's a guy, you can actually consider him one of the big faces now on that show.
I mean, really, he really is, because, you know, Undertaker's really not there too much. So it's just him and Rey Mysterio. I don't believe Rey Mysterio is just going to be the face of SmackDown. It's still always going to be Undertaker's SmackDown, but that week-to-week face, Christian has to take that position.
He has to. Mm-hmm. So, future storylines from Raw. What do you think?
Well, I see that actually, like I said earlier, with the Randy Orton and Edge rivalry, I see that storyline coming together, and that's going to be a setup for whoever goes to the WWE Championship after Batista and John Cena had their second match after Batista winning last night, that #1 contenders triple threat match. And so I see that that rivalry propelling them to be the WWE champion. Also, another one I see coming out, you have Chris Jericho. I don't know how he can be thrown in there, but I see him possibly revamping his old show, the highlight reel on Raw, because that's where it was. You know, it never really was on SmackDown, except a few times with Edge, and so I see him coming back into that kind of host-style format as well. And so it's got a, in my opinion, it's got a pretty bright future for Raw.
All right. So Chris, what's the Raw? What do you think about future storylines on SmackDown?
SmackDown, depending on how much they use Undertaker, I can see Undertaker and Swagger a little bit. I don't really, it's a possibility. No, Rey Mysterio, he's probably going to stay with CM Punk for right now. Swagger and Undertaker is a possibility. I mean, they could throw the Big Show in there. Possibly use Kane just as people to keep Swagger going. But as far as a main event person and #1 contender for Swagger, I really don't see nobody as of yet. And then as far as McIntyre, I think he's just going to be Kofi Kingston might be that person for him. Or they could use Christian as the high mid-card person.
All right. And we'll be right back with more On the Range. Stay tuned.